Artemisia Gentilici was born in Rome in 1593. She and her brothers were given their first art lessons by their father Orazio Gentilici, and it was immediately noted that Artemisia was the most talented. At the age of 17, she painted Susanna and the Elders. It is thought that Artemisia was harassed the same way Susanna was, hence her subject matter selection. Being a woman, she would not be accepted into the academy. For this reason, her father called in a colleague to further her education, Agostino Tarsi. It is inconclusive whether Tarsi seduced Artemisia with fake promises of marriage or if he actually raped her. Orazio sued Tarsi, a trial that lasted 7 months, and concluded with Tarsi's imprisonment for a year. The terrible news became public, and Orazio did not take long to arrange a marriage to save his daughter's honor. Artemisia was to marry Pierantonio Straltisi, with whom she had 2 children, and soon after he disappeared without trace. Artemisia, then, moved to Florence, where she became a celebrated artist. She was not only accepted into the academy, but was also under the protection of the de' Medici family and befriended Galileo Galilei. Artemisia's father was a student of Caravaggio's, and when she became his successor, her art was highly emotional and intellectual. In Susanna and the Elders, the young woman's disgust is clearly shown. Another great example is Judith beheading Holofernes. There have been plenty of depictions of this biblical scene, but none as expressive and memorable as hers. She was able to depict Judith with a never-before-seen determination and strength, as her and her servant hold down Holofernes, and while he is fighting back, Judith cuts his head. Perhaps her being a woman, it helped to depict these feelings more realistically than a man ever could. It is this feminine power shown in her paintings what makes her art so memorable and unique. Judith Lester was born in Harlem in 1609. Her father owned and operated a brewery called the Leicester, known as Lodestar or Guide Star, from where the family gets its name. Judith did not grow up poor by any means, but that does not mean she came from wealth either. The Lester family was content in the middle class. It seems that hardship and struggle were experiences not well known to Judith and can be seen in her work later on. There isn't much known about her childhood or even of any formal training she may have had. Franz Peters de Greber is thought to have been a possible instructor of hers based on their mentioning in the Amazings 1628 p.m. to Harlem together. Lester later traveled to Rome, where she would meet the Utrecht Caravaggisti, a group of artists set out to study the ways of the famed Italian Baroque painter. The influence of Caravaggio in Judith's work can clearly be seen in her painting The Last Drop. She uses sharp diagonal lines to keep the movement dramatic and energetic. We also see her version on tenebrism to enhance the memento mori theme. There is also the classic bright red cloth that Caravaggio is famous for. Judith went on to be one of only 2 women accepted as a master by the Harlem's Painters Guild during the entire 17th century. In 1636, Lester found herself a husband, a painter by the name of Jean-Mines Molyneux. They had 5 children together, and Judith found herself painting less and less. Although very few paintings of her have been found after her marriage, but it is believed that she collaborated with her husband. Judith found her passion painting lively and joyous scenes of friends and children, to portray the kind of carefree lifestyle that everybody longs for after years of travel and work. Judith and her husband returned to their original home of Harlem, where she died in 1660. After her death, most of her work went unattributed to her, and the credit went to her longtime friend Franz Hals. It wasn't until more than 200 years later, in 1892, that the proper credit owed to her was paid. Her clever use of her initials and logo on her work was the key evidence in bringing her out of obscurity and placing her among the master Dutch 17th century painters.